What's going on, folks? How you guys doing? So, look, before we open up the bar today, we gotta address that last week's theory video was totally right. And the world of My Hero Academia is forever changed as of chapter 306. So for today, we're gonna take the time out to analyze this chapter and talk about what's really going on, because wow, what a chapter. But with that being said, as always, this video is gonna contain spoilers for My Hero Academia, and probably along the way I'll spoil something from Vigilante. So if you're not caught up, read the most recent chapter and then head on back. And if you're anime only, this week the videos are coming, so don't worry. Other than that though, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that notification bell. And when you hit that notification bell, make sure you change your notifications from personalized to all. That way you never miss a premiere here on the channel where we all get together and talk about potential theories beyond my videos. Also, one more thing. Thank you for the push beyond 18,000 subscribers. 20,000 subscribers is actually in sight because of you all, so thank you so much. Now, let's head inside and grab ourselves a drink. Welcome to the bar, folks. So, this is the first video I'm putting out after finding out some of my theories panned out to be correct, as chapter 306 confirmed Deku is leaving UA. And while, yeah, people would say the biggest takeaway from 306 is that, there are other aspects to this chapter worth analyzing. And the top three being the reveal of One For All's secrets by All Might to Best Jeanist and Hawks, the press conference held by the top three to elaborate more on their past and present actions, and finally, the fact that UA is officially being used as a shelter for various citizens because the villain outbreak has destabilized society to its core. So let's head over to the wall and start breaking down some of my favorite moments from chapter 306, and at the end, I'll throw some potential theories into the ether as well. Okay, so the chapter starts off confirming that to a certain degree, All Might felt what was going on inside of Deku. We knew that All Might's thoughts and feelings were being relayed back to his Force Ghost inside of One For All, but All Might saying it pretty much confirms it. And while this is a great kickoff to the chapter, the main part of All Might's piece in 306 is the fact that he's confronted by Hawks and Best Jeanist about the secret of One For All. Now, whether or not All Might omitted certain facts to protect Deku is to be said. We don't really see the explicit conversation, but my guess is enough of the secret has been revealed that the two heroes realize, along with Endeavor, that this needs to stay a secret for Deku's safety along with everyone else's. All Might wasn't really even pressured that hard by Hawks and Jeanist for the reveal of the secret either. Shigaraki going straight for Deku while calling him One For All, coupled with the fact that Deku expressed over an open channel that he was being targeted by said threat, would cause a stir after the fact. And I've said that over and over and over again in so many videos. Deku kind of inadvertently outed himself in a panic because of all of that chaos, and now that the dust is beginning to settle, people are starting to ask tons of questions. And that leads us into the press conference where we have Endeavor owning up to the fact that he is guilty of a quirk marriage and is one of the main contributing factors to the creation of the villain Dabi. Now, press conferences in My Hero Academia never happen for good reasons, and this one, you could feel the stress and tension in the air as the people of Japan looked on to see their number one admit to being a serial domestic abuser, and their number two admitting to killing a villain to minimize casualties, in addition to hiding his identity as the son of an infamous thief. But what the real takeaway from this conversation is this woman right here. She's a reporter who, during the attacks, her mother was almost killed by Gigantomachia. She actually reminds me of the character played by Alfre Woodard in Captain America Civil War, going by Miriam Sharp. Miriam was the one who confronted Tony Stark in the beginning of Captain America Civil War about her son dying during the Battle of Sokovia. And during that particular scene, she goes out of the way to point out that it wasn't Ultron who killed her son. It was the Avengers. While the Avengers did stop Ultron, they didn't stop her son from having a building dropped onto him. And before leaving, Sharp tells Iron Man that the Avengers only fought for themselves and they were claiming to defend the people. Now, while these two conversations are very different, in many ways the same type of emotions are being conveyed through this reporter's outburst. She wants the heroes to do their jobs, to minimize casualties, not play the apology game and turn citizens into refugees. Her emotions emotions are raw and irrational in this current moment, and she wants to see more distress on the heroes' faces. And while Endeavor really isn't on the best of terms with anyone, he realizes that right now Endeavor is all that these people have, and he will do anything he can to make it right. But that's when the chapter kind of takes a twist and reveals to us the extent of how bad everything has gotten. It turns out, to provide more protection, UA is working with the government to use its facilities as a refugee center, and the media reacted exactly how I hoped they would. You're essentially putting everybody of high importance in one place. If one villain gets through, it's game over, especially if you know if that UA traitor still exists. So the media does have a viable argument though. The heroes failed on a grand level, and now in conjunction with the government with zero path forward, they expect people to live in shelters until this problem is all wrapped up? With the parents and relatives moving into UA, it does make me wonder what will happen further. There's so much more to assume now, but I'm going to leave the theorizing for the end of the video, because now we're getting to the part that was confirmed from my previous video. And there's one thing I do need to point out before we go any further though. Daps up to Endeavor for not being a snitch and covering for Deku and All Might. But secondly, well, it looks like as of this panel, Deku has made a pretty intense decision that will affect this series moving forward. And the landslide of a scene starts with Deku leaving a letter for every single member at UA, elaborating how he got his quirk and why he made the decision to leave. This moment was honestly the most immature moment, in my opinion, that Deku has ever done in this entire series. Up until now, he's acted pretty brash and headstrong, but he's always thought out every move. We've known Deku as the character that will always reach out when he knows that somebody is in trouble. But now that he knows that he's the one in trouble, the only thing that he wants to do is move out of the way to prevent any collateral damage whatsoever. He's not relying on his friends, which we all know in Shonen, the power of friendship has the ability to beat anything. I totally get his MO though. Deku doesn't want to paint a target on UA, especially if villains know that he's holed up there. Staying and living at UA just jeopardizes his friends and now his family, so he has to make the executive decision to go into a relative form of hiding. The thing is, I think we're underestimating the kids at UA. Some will absolutely feel deceived, but at the same time, they're friends, and when they know that one is in trouble, they can't help but assist one another. I mean, I really am interested actually in seeing the reaction from Bakugo. His character has really grown in the past year, and that makes me wonder if his letter is like, Deku telling him something along the lines of, I know you'll track me down, but UA needs your strength right now. Playing that role could make Bakugo stay and not chase him down. Though I would like, to see Deku roll solo for a little bit, but seeing Ochako hurt like this, man, nobody needed that this week. Though every superhero at one point or another has to go out on their own, it's just the nature of the beast. But the chapter ends with Deku standing atop a building wearing an older version of his hero outfit coupled with Gran Torino's cape and what looks like the full gauntlet given to him by Melissa's shield on both arms. And I gotta say, the Western comic book lover in me absolutely adores the fact that this is clearly an homage to Jim Lee's Batman. He's even standing atop a gargoyle and everything. But while he overlooks that city down below, we get a close-up to his face as he says that that's a really large villain, but look at his eyes. They look really, really sad. But really, I couldn't be more excited for chapter 307 at this point. And yeah, that's how the chapter ends. So before we get to theorizing, this video was my redemption for Compass Kid, everybody. Let's fire up the W alarm. Alright, anyway, let's get to theorizing. So first things first, I really want to address the fan theory that Deku is currently in New York. Look people, as a resident of the tri-state area, not every place with gargoyles is Manhattan and not every building is the Chrysler Building. I know, everybody out there wants Deku to go to America, but my guess is he's not gonna ditch Japan knowing that his mom is living inside of a refugee center. He's gonna figure out how to defeat All For One and bring back society, not leave for America and come back to a devastated Japan in 3 years. Heroic Society died in 1 year, so what if he leaves now? That would be a time skip without One For All being in the fold for an extended period of time. And Deku himself has prevented many deaths over the course of the past year, so if he leaves Japan, it spells for some serious bad news for the parents living at UA right now. Next, let's talk about Deku's hero license. The only reason why Deku has a provisional license is because he passed the exam to become a provisional hero. That provisional license is probably only allowed to be in use while enrolled at a hero academy, because once you graduate, you get the full-on license, meaning that if that's the case and Deku has lost his hero license, I finally get to say this. Deku is finally a vigilante, and with him leaving behind his teachers, he's bound to meet retired heroes or even people who are willing to take up the mantle of vigilantes to help out in this crazy situation, meaning the odds of our boy meeting Koichi has become completely possible now. I've spoken to some people that maybe Deku saves Koichi from the sludge villain and afterwards sees the All Might hoodie and they bond over being fanboys, but the scenario that I'm really hoping for is that Deku almost gets himself killed, and as he opens up his eyes, he sees the back of All Might, only for it to be Koichi and the vigilantes coming to save him. Not only would that give us the best superhero team up of 2021, but I would lose my shit, man. Either way, I can't believe it. I get to say that Deku is a vigilante. And before we sign off today, one last thing. I really want to talk about his classmates. I feel like there would be certain people like Ida or even Todoroki who would absolutely not agree with Deku's decision, and it begs to be questioned if Chapter 307 will even follow Deku. Chapter 306 was an equivalent of a nuclear bomb to the status quo. It's completely changed at this point. So before we move back to the main character, we're gonna have to see how his actions have affected the people around him first. As much as I'd love to see Deku jump into it and take down that big-ass villain, there's tons of reactions that we still need to see. In hindsight, I would really like to see the conversation in which he just packs up and dips out. I mean, he just up and leaves, so I'd like to see whether or not it was his decision, and mostly, I'd want to see All Might's reaction to finding out his pupil dipped out. So don't be surprised if Horikoshi has a few more chapters planned with Deku playing a supporting role. All in all though, this chapter was probably one of my favorite chapters in the series, mostly because I get to say that Deku is a vigilante now. Man, I've been waiting for this moment. But if you have any theories as to what might happen in Chapter 307, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for much more content. But for now, I'm gonna get out of here. Cheers.